Hello and welcome to an Everyday Canines video. This is the Pup to Pro series, and in this episode I'm going to talk to you about why I'm using hoops as foundational training with Magpie. So hoops come from the sport of hoopers, which is relatively new in the UK. It's been in America a lot longer. And this is what I mean by a hoop. It is literally a plastic tubing over the top with a base and a foot. And it's just a large target for the dog to run through. And when you do hoopers in competition, you could have over 20 of these set up, and the dog has to take them on. This Magpie is the first dog I have started to use hoops with. To be fair to the others, I didn't really know much about hoopers before when I had them as puppies. But since I've been doing a bit more of hoopers, can we not dig a hole right there? Yeah, no. Since I know a bit more about hoopers, I realised there's an advantage to using them in my foundational training for agility. So the key thing about hoops is they are low impact. We're not asking our dog to jump when we go through them. Yes, they might jump a little bit over the bar. You can actually get hoops that stick in the ground and don't even have a bar. So you can eliminate that completely. But the low impact, we're not asking our dogs to jump. We're not asking them to do any twisty tight turns like weaves. All we're asking is them to drive through an obstacle. So what is the advantages of that? Well, first off, they're learning to drive forward away from us. Secondly, they're learning value for an obstacle, which is one of the big things that often happens with youngsters when they start doing agility. Is they don't have value for taking a jump, so they run past it instead of taking the jump. So we're teaching on a low level, we're teaching a value for obstacles. And the idea is that you have to go through this hoop to get your reward. I actually think this is quite good to then transfer to jumps because it is actually quite a narrow obstacle. It's actually slightly harder for the dogs to make sure they go through it than, say, a jump, because wings are obviously big. So in a way, it's actually challenging the dog to really understand that this is an obstacle and this is what I've got to do. Thirdly, it's teaching forward focus, teaching them to drive through after a toy and drive forward. So there's lots of good, valuable things it's teaching our puppies, which we can then transfer to agility. So I've had people ask me, why not just use a pair of wings without the pole on? Same difference, isn't it? I don't think it is. Now, let me put this, in the past I would have done that. We didn't have hoops in the past, so that was really the only option. I have done that. But now we've got hoops, I think these are a better alternative. Why? What we are teaching when we're asking a dog to drive through on the flat, whether it's through a hoop or through a pair of wings, is we're asking them to drive through as fast as physically they can to something at the end. Just power through. That is not the behaviour you're going to ask your dog to do over a jump. Yes, we want drive for jumps, but you think when they actually come to a jump, especially with larger dogs, it's a much more controlled behaviour. The dog has to come up to a jump, it has to judge where the pole is, has to pick a takeoff spot, it has to successfully jump high enough to get over the pole, and then it has to land and be prepared for the next jump. That is very different from running flat out in a drive across the flat. Now, Pi is 5 months. She won't be seeing a jump till 9-10 months at least, and then it will be with puppy bumps. If I did this once a week for the next 5 months with her, she would get very rehearsed at driving flat out. It'd be a beautiful drive, absolutely beautiful. But then the second I started to add in that little jump with the wings, I've changed the game. I've changed the behaviour that I have been rewarding. I'm now asking her to do something else. I'm asking her, even with a little puppy bump, to have to jump. So effectively, I'm having to train a new behaviour on the same. If I was using wings, I'd be having to train a secondary behaviour, and that first behaviour would almost be invalidated. Because now I'm saying to her, oh, actually, I don't want you to drive as fast as possible in a straight line because I need you to think about jumping. And jumping is a skill that dogs need to be taught to be able to do it successfully. And A lot of people just assume a dog will figure it out, but that's when you get pole knocking things. They actually need to understand their job when it comes to jumping. Jumping is complicated. There's a lot of things to take into account to take a pole successfully. The other possibility, if I've been teaching all this drive through wings, and I might have set up, say, 3 pairs of wings to teach that drive, what might happen is that the dog gets so used to just driving forward that it just starts to clip poles. It's so keen to drive to a reward because that's what it's had value for. It doesn't worry about the poles and it just clips them, takes them down, and they just smash down. I could be preparing my dog to be a pole knocker effectively. To me, it doesn't seem logical to teach a behaviour with wings that you're not actually going to want. At no stage in their agility career are they going to be running through a pair of wings with no bar on them, unless of course they've knocked it and they have to come back, but that's a different story. But it's not an exercise we're going to teach, we're going to use. In contrast, driving on the flat, powering as hard as you can on the flat, is a skill we want at agility. So I think it's far better to teach this skill with something like a hoop, where I'm not going to then change the criteria, than to teach it with wings and then say to them, actually, that isn't what you do with this jump. Sorry, I taught you wrong, and now you're going to have to relearn. So that's why I'm using hoops. As I said, it's the first time I've done it, and it's because I now have access to hoops. Hoops are really inexpensive to make. So if you want a hoop, I shall get a link for you and put in the description of plans for hoops. They're really easy to make and they're cheap to make. To be honest with you, if you haven't got jumps, a hoop is a great starting point because it's a lot cheaper to make than a full pair of jumps. You can also buy them, obviously, if you wanted to do that, and they're not that expensive either. But to start you off, if you're going to make them, I'll put a plan in there for you. They consist of this bar, which you can use as, say, a hula hoop bar or something like that, and some plastic pipe with a foot. Mine are pegged into the ground at the sides where it's not going to matter to the dog, so they don't fall over, because quite often when the wind blows here, they go falling flat. How many hoops do you need? You could begin with just one, and if you've only got limited space in a garden, one is certainly going to be ideal to start you off, and you can teach loads with just one. I'm eventually going to have up a full course with her because I want to do hoopers with her eventually as well. But you can see, you might be able to see, I've got a second hoop out there, and then I'd put a third hoop out. So you could go up, certainly up to 3 if you had the space. You're going to be setting them up when you do that about 4 meters apart, because that's the minimum they are at a hoopers competition. The other thing to bear in mind with the hoops, I'm not going to use them to teach tight turns like wing wrap. She's too young to do wing wraps at this moment in time, and I'm not going to be teaching this to do backsides either or anything like that. I will eventually do hoopers with her as a sport, so I certainly don't want to encourage the behaviour of wing wraps and going to the back of a hoop, which is not a behaviour you would have in a hoopers competition. Hoopers is designed to be a flowing, low impact sport with a soft turns, never a tight turn. Could you use this to teach those turns? Yes, you could. If you've got limited space at home and you're teaching these things indoors in the winter, you could use these. But bear in mind that if you teach a turn, a wing wrap, or even a turn around this pole, it is a very tight turn you are teaching. You think of the narrowness, especially this side, you think how narrow that is. Now you can teach it, obviously you can, but bear in mind that when you start to come to a wing, you don't actually want that level of tightness. That is way too tight to take you round a wing. A wing would be out here. So if you've got your dog used to turning tight, you've got to teach them to turn out wider again. So there's also a risk of causing injury by doing that tight too many times. It can be a strain on the shoulders and backs because it is so tight. I certainly wouldn't do that with a puppy. That would be an older dog thing, and I would probably only do it once a week for a couple of reps, say 5 reps each side, if I was doing it at home and trying to teach my directionals, but I certainly wouldn't do that a lot. The other thing with using a hoop, you can obviously use it inside very easily. So you can use it in a hallway, as long as the hallway has got carpet or something on it, so it's non-slip for the puppy. You could use it in the living room. It gives you that opportunity to use it. I have tried to have a full jump in my living room. It doesn't work. There's not enough room, and most of us don't have that much room to set up a full jump lengthways, but most of us can usually fit in a hoop and set that up. So again, so many things you can do with this as a foundational, and it's a great foundation skill she's learning without putting any pressure on her little joints and potentially causing her any damage at this young age. So now I'm going to show you one of the foundational exercises I've been doing with the hoops. The next video along, I'm going to show you a little bit more how I built up value for the hoop, because that is going to be a starting skill. So bear in mind, if your dog's never seen a hoop, you're going to need to go to the next video first and then come back to this. But I just want to give you an idea of what I'm doing and what I can achieve with a hoop. So I have two toys with Pi Pi. I have a slightly higher value toy on me because I want it to come back to me, and the lower value for here. And what I've been doing is putting this toy there. Oh, she says, look at that. Now, already you can see we've got forward focus. She's looking at the toy away from me. Already that's a valuable skill we're teaching. Now I'm going to release her, and you can see she's quite close to the hoop, so there shouldn't be any issue of her missing that. Ready? Go get it! Yay! I don't mind that she went back through the hoop. Good girlie. Where's it? Yeah, good girl. I can't get the handle. She said, get the handle and play with me, silly woman. So you can see we've already got that great drive, that explosiveness, what we want. Yeah, yeah, good girl. And excitement. So I can do this, good girl, good girl. So what I can do, mine, okay, it's a mine. We didn't need the other toy in that one, by the way. Sometimes I need it to bring her back. So this time I'm going to set her further back. Potentially she could now miss the hoop, so we're going to see if she's got value. Again, we've got the forward focus. Ready? Get it! Yahoo! Good girlie! Where's it? Brings it to me. Come on, where's it? Yay! Did you have a little parade? Yes! So, you can see, getting value for obstacles, and we've done up to 2 hoops with her, so she's getting that value for obstacles. Yeah. Right. And you can see she's driving away from me. We're teaching her independence. Good girl. All very valuable skills for when you go to do agility. Yeah. And we're teaching this all in the field where there's lots of distractions. Oh, is that a big noisy lorry? Yeah. So that she's getting, yes, all of that. Now I'm going to switch to the higher value toy, which is rabbit skin. Get a toy, because I want to get some extra value in. Yeah. So, okay, you're building up fun, a bond with your puppy, and look at that, from a simple hoop. I hope you've enjoyed this Everyday Canines video, and I hope I've explained to you why I'm using hoops this time with my puppy. And if you have enjoyed this, you might like to subscribe to the YouTube channel, and you can click the bell button to get notifications of new videos. And you can also find us on Instagram and Facebook. And I hope to see you all again very, very soon.